Okay, so today what I have here is some Chinese chestnuts. To show you how to store them for the winter. To stratify them, to plant them out in the spring. I'm using 3 or 5 gallon tree containers. You can use whatever you want as far as 5 gallon buckets or whatever, as long as you make sure it drains well, has holes in the bottom. And I'm using black gold peat moss. So generally, you don't want the chestnuts touching while you set them in there. I put a first layer down. And when you get them spread out across the peat moss, usually I can fit probably about 20 per layer. You cover the next layer and start the next layer of chestnuts and just repeat it until the container's filled. One thing you don't want to do is put chestnuts in that are good and clean with ones that might be bad or moldy. Now this is a separate video, but you could float test them to eliminate bad ones. I could feel this one was bad. But because they will, once one gets in contact with the other ones, they'll all become moldy. That's why you try to keep them separate. The peat moss has a bit of antifungal, so it helps keep the mold down. Chestnuts like to be moist, but not soaking wet. And you can fit quite a bit of them in here. Probably fit well over 100 or more in just this container. Just as long as they're spaced out well. You can do this not only in containers where I'm going to set it in the ground, dig a hole and put it in the ground for the winter and cover it with mesh. You can also take the chestnuts and cut holes in Ziploc bags with peat moss and stick them in your refrigerator crisper for 3 months to meet the requirements they need to germinate in the spring. And if you're doing that, just check on them every so often to make sure they're not drying out or too wet or mold. What's nice about the crisper, you get to maintain it at a constant 40 degrees and keep an eye on them because you can kind of see them through the clear Ziploc bags. The benefit of putting them outside, and they'll awake on them by themselves, is once it's warm enough outside, or starts to get warm enough outside, they'll definitely start waking up, and out of the pointy end of the chestnut, the taproot will start. I'll do more videos on this as I'm putting them in the ground and how I'm covering them, and then in the spring I'll uncover them and explain the taproots. You gotta be real careful with them. Once they break off, they're no good. One bag of peat moss goes a long way, so you can keep it for quite some time. Chestnuts like a well-drained soil. They don't like wet areas. They'll develop a root fungus disease. So it's always best to plant them on a slope if possible. And you can see I just keep layering, covering, spread them out, layer, and repeat the process until the whole container's full. This is going to take some time because I have a lot of chestnuts. It didn't take me long to collect all these. A chestnut tree can produce a lot of chestnuts, several hundred pounds, and these are Chinese, like I said. The American, which pretty much all but went extinct, are much smaller. But these are blight resistant, so this is what I'm going to be planting. You can direct seed these in the ground and hope for the best, and hope no mice get them and they survive the winter. But I'm going to put them in this peat moss, cover them, and I'll direct seed them in the ground, and some I'll put in a bit of a bed and see what I can get out of them. I've done this multiple times. It works out quite well. I've put them in containers, but the problem I find out when you put them in the crisper, they tend to start, the taproots start pretty early, and in February, even maintaining it at a constant 40 degrees, the taproots want to start early for me. I don't know if this is everybody else has the same problem, but I'm going to try them in the ground this time and go from there. And some of them I will direct seed since I have so many, and I encourage you to try multiple avenues. Don't just put all your chestnuts in one basket, if you will, because if they get all moldy or one idea you had doesn't work out, you have alternatives. You can try some in crisper, try burying some, and try direct seeding some. This is more for if you have a large area and you don't want to buy 100 chestnut seedlings or whatnot. If you're going to just buy a handful, you might be better off just buying them full grown, 6 foot, 2-year-old seedlings, 2-3-year-old seedlings. That way, you know, there's a lot less risk, and make sure you cage them. The deer love them. risk, but since I had so many, they didn't cost me anything. I've done this before. I'll put them in peat moss. I'll stratify them till probably I'll check on them in March whenever I can dig up the ground and look at them and see where they're at, and then I'll direct seed some in other spots and put some maybe in a nursery bed if I want to. Thank you. There'll be more videos to come as I progress with this project.